Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Cooking Rules with Jules. That's me. My name is Julia Pontanis and I'm here to help you make your kitchen experience not only healthy but incredibly easy. So tonight what I have for you is a stuffed pepper with ground turkey and roasted Yukon Gold potatoes. So I happen to love ground meat for a quick and easy weeknight meal, and this is especially perfect if you have a young family that you need to be quick and fed and back out the door or to bed. I just rhymed, look what I did there. Anyways, I think the heat is starting to get to me and it's not quite officially summer yet. But anyways, what I'm going to start by doing, of course, with any meal is order of operations. I've already preheated my oven to 350 degrees and I have all of my vegetables out that I need to prep to get our stuffed peppers going. First thing I'm going to do, I always like to start with my onion and garlic. So I have half an onion here, which I'm actually only going to use a half of that. So I'm going to slice this guy in half, peel off the outside skin, top little part there too. Move these out of the way so you can actually see what I'm doing. Put these guys over here on top of this. For any type of ground meat, I like to dice my onions. So I'm just gonna first go long ways. Be careful of my fingers. And then I'm gonna switch it on its side and come back and slice it again. And then from here, I have my nice little pile of onions. So I'm gonna go back and then just give them another chop again. So I don't wanna be overwhelmed by onion flavor, you know, but we want it to be still tasty. So about an eighth of an onion for a pound of ground turkey. And of course you can use lean ground beef in this as well, or ground chicken, whatever you happen to have. I just happen to have ground turkey this week. So I'm going to get that aside. Next thing I'm gonna do is take my clove of garlic and cut off both ends. Give it a little press. Now I've read that's terrible for your knife. I don't really know for sure. I'll have to do some research, but anyways, just want to give my clove of garlic a quick chop. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna go long ways so you can see. And it's okay if these get mixed in together because I'm going to saute them up together. Nice and easy. Next thing I'm gonna do is my potatoes. So I wanna do these in some fun little wedges. So I'm gonna cut them in half and then again in half again. So into quarters. And I'm going to throw them in my metal bowl, which I have conveniently right behind me. And I'll put to the side so you can see what I'm doing. These are those baby Yukon Golds again that I used a week or two ago. They're really fresh and delicious. So they're on the menu again. I always try and buy what's freshest and in season. So if something looks like it's been sitting around for a while and it's soggy or it doesn't quite smell fragrant anymore, then I pick something else that's a little bit more fresh to the touch. Okay, potatoes are done. Boom. Last but actually, you know what, we're gonna do these first. So the way I like to do my peppers, and I got these at a farmer's market in South Florida, is I'm going to cut around the top of the pepper and then scoop out the seeds and the rib. Wow, these peppers smell amazing. I'm normally not a green pepper fan, but these came from the farmer's market when I went to go visit my mom. And I knew they would be fresh and delicious. So I'm just peeling out the inside. Got my garbage can here. I'm just going to dump out the seeds. Okay. Placing this guy on my baking sheet behind me for safekeeping. And here's my other one. Now these are really tiny, so if you have a big family or big eaters, you might want to get larger size green peppers, but for me this will do. One for tonight, one for leftover for tomorrow. Traditionally, stuffed peppers are made with rice, which you can most certainly add to the ground meat mixture. You can do even cauliflower rice. But today I'm going without rice because I'm going to do that potato instead for a carb choice. And then just do the ground turkey, tomatoes, and saute onions. Okay, brings me next to this guy. No canned tomatoes, ever. Use fresh tomatoes. They're just delicious. Just cook them longer and the water will drain off. It won't be watery, I promise. Just got to give it some time, a little bit of love. So I'm going to cut out my stem. Half. And again, these guys are just going to get a nice little rough chop. If you have a tomato knife will work well too. And I'm going to leave everything in here, seeds included. Just get everybody ready to go. Now you don't have to use tomato, but since I'm not using rice, I kind of want to give mine a little bit more of a richer consistency, and the tomato will help do that. And these happen to be my last little bit of heirloom tomatoes, which by the way lasted 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks here in my house. So anytime you can get farm fresh produce, I highly recommend it. Okay, so these guys have a nice rough chop. Perfect. Kitchen towel, always need these. Okay, so for the potatoes, I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see. I'm going to drizzle in about a half a tablespoon to 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to season, and season always means salt and pepper to me. I don't know, so it might mean something different else, but for me that's what that means. So I'm going to give this about 7-8 turns. I'm also going to give this some pepper, and I happen to have some dried oregano, so I'm really feeling kind of like that fresh herb feeling on the potatoes. Most of the time I use sage, but today I'm going to do oregano, which will be a really nice complement to the peppers and the tomatoes. So I'm going to give these guys a nice little coat, toss them up, and then we're going to put them on the pan along with my peppers. So I'm going to place both peppers on either side, and then I'll put my potatoes in the middle, but I need a spatula. Hold that thought. So this goes back to be prepared in your kitchen, which I actually wrote a blog about and posted on Monday, so go figure on that one. Anyways, it just said be prepared before you start cooking so you don't have to keep searching for utensils like I did. All right, now that I have my potatoes and peppers on my tray, I'm gonna set this back aside and get started on, move that back to the turkey. So I'm gonna set my pan on a medium-high heat. And once it gets heated up enough, then I'll go ahead and pour the olive oil in there. Okay, The pan is now getting hot, so I'm going to take my olive oil again and just coat the bottom of the pan. If you have non-stick, you don't have to use olive oil, or you can use less. For me, I'm going to use about, and again, maybe 2 teaspoons of olive oil, just to coat the bottom of my pan. Okay, so now nice and coated, I'm going to add my meat. So other thing to note is I always let my protein come out to room temperature, and actually not just my protein, but all of my ingredients. So before I start cooking, I make sure that my ingredients are the same temperature as the air. That way they cook more efficiently. You don't have to heat something up from a colder state of being if it's been in your refrigerator. And I, of course, can't get into my turkey. Okay, here we go. So for this guy, I'm just going to dump them right on in. And I get a nice little sizzle. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. You don't want to spread bacteria, right? And have chicken or turkey guts everywhere. I love to cook with bamboo utensils instead of plastic. Again, if you keep up with my vlogs, then you'll know that I also dislike plastic. And I also just realized I made cardinal mistake number 1, which I should have added my onions and garlic first, but we'll roll with it. It's already happening. So see, even mistakes happen when the best intentions are set. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and let this turkey start to get brown. I'm going to season it up with some salt. There are no mistakes in art, just remember that, and cooking is an art, so if this isn't a mistake, it's an experiment. I'm going to start to just give this a nice little stir. And so my meat is already starting to get brown. I'm going to crank the heat up on this a little bit more. I also have smoked paprika, which I'm going to add into the ground turkey. You don't have to use this. I just think it adds a ton of flavor. It's kind of smoky, so think about like that tangy sweet of a barbecue sauce. It's what you're gonna kind of get on that flavor profile of a paprika. And then of course the smoke, we all know what that tastes like, hopefully. So I'm going to give this guy a nice douse. Sometimes when you cook over the steam, the spices won't come out. So I'm gonna take the cap off and very carefully spread that in there. And then I'm going to clean up as I go. So spice cabinet's above my head. I've got the oregano up there. I've got the spiced paprika up there, smoked paprika. And I'm just gonna continue to stir and break up the meat. So I have a slotted spatula here, which is great for any type of ground beef, turkey, chicken. You could even use bison or venison for this. It would still be delicious. You can pick whatever you want. Okay. So the meat is starting to brown up and starting to crumble. I'm going to add in my onions and garlic since they're all piled into one right there. Once the meat starts to season or to cook, I'm going to take a taste test for seasoning. So I'm going to see if I need to add any more salt, any little bit more paprika. So we'll call that a chef's perk, right? Being able to taste test. Plus, it also gives you an idea of where you're making your mistakes. Like, am I not putting enough salt in? Is that too many onion? Is that too little garlic? You can always gauge. So you don't want to get food poisoning though. Give this a nice little stir. It's coming together very nicely. And keep playing in my food. That's the best part of all of this. So I have my chef's tasting spoon. That looks done. It's hot, don't burn your tongue. Definitely needs more salt. Not a ton, but just a little bit. Especially since I'm about ready to add these tomatoes next. I'm also gonna go back in and add more of this paprika because it just doesn't have that depth to it. So when I take a bite of that, I taste turkey, and that's great, but I wanna taste something really savory and amazing, and that's where your spices come in. So I am not gonna be afraid here. Give this guy another shake. And the more you start to get into your kitchen and experiment, the more you're gonna be able to do these things as well. So again, it's just like a formula, right? So we always start, heat the pan, okay? Step one. Add your fat, whatever that is, butter, olive oil. Then it should be onions and garlic, which I did it backwards this time, but that's okay. Then we have our protein, then we have our seasonings, and now comes that delicious heirloom tomato, which has such a great meaty flavor to it. Going to add these guys in here. Boop, drain all the juice. And really let the tomatoes cook down. Whoop, I lost a piece of turkey. We'll put that on the tasting spoon. In the meantime, my oven is already preset and preheated up, and I really want this to kind of cook down, so I'm going to turn the heat up on it. And then I'm also going to put a lid on it because I want to kind of like flash stew these tomatoes. So I want the steam to come up and go back inside, start to break down the tomato, let them release their waters, and then from there I want that water to reduce down so I get like a nice thick sauce in my ground meat. My ground meat and tomato mixture is getting right where I want it, so what I'm going to do is turn off the heat. So through the power of video editing, that was about a 7 to 10 minute simmer. But as you can tell, all the juices from the tomato have dried up, but it looks like we have some really flavorful stuff happening here. So now comes the fun part, which is to stuff your peppers. Be very careful when you do this. So I have gutted my pepper here. I'm going to just start to spoon in my meat mixture. If you wanted to be fancy, you could also add some cheese on this. Now remember, we do everything on my channel mostly paleo and Whole30, and I say mostly because there will be exceptions. So if you have a grass-fed cheese, then that is technically paleo, and then of course, you know, Whole30, they pull out the dairy for the most part. So I have that pepper pretty packed in there. I just stuff it in. Like that. So my mother used to make these when I was growing up, and it was one of the meals that my sister and I actually really enjoyed. It feels like any of those ground meat meals were our favorites. So sloppy joes, stuffed peppers, and taco night. Who doesn't love taco night? Now I happen to have Romano cheese. I could do that, but I think I would prefer more of like an Asiago or even like a sharp white cheddar. I think would be delicious on this. So now that I have my peppers stuffed, I'm going to put them in the oven and I'm going to bake them till the pepper is tender. So I'm going to guess right around 20 minutes, maybe less, along with my potatoes. So the peppers will probably be done slightly before the potatoes, but that is okay, because then the peppers will have time to cool and you can actually eat your meal. So into the oven we go. Now, whoops, Be careful not to let your peppers fall over just like mine did on the way in. Okay. Please stay put. Yay. It's so hot in there, it melted my mascara. I have a lot of leftover ground meat, and the way that I utilize this is by turning it into something different. So if I had overly seasoned and made this one profile or another, so say I was making tacos, right? And I had just a ton of taco meat left over, I'm a little bit limited as far as how I can make the same meat into another meal. But with this one, for example, I've got that smoky paprika and the tomato, onion, garlic, so I don't have anything that's really overpowerful, just complementary. I could most certainly make a zucchini lasagna with the rest of this meat. And of course with either a cheese substitute of some vegan cheese, or you could do, again, like grass-fed cheese, or forget the grass-fed and do whatever. But the idea is to keep making your leftovers exciting and change them up a bit. So make them flavorful, but not to the point where you've locked yourself into a specific cuisine box. On that note, I'm going to give us a pause and come back once these peppers and potatoes are done, which should be right about the same time. All right, see you in a jiff. Ta-da! I'm back with a finished stuffed pepper and roasted potatoes. And all I'm gonna do to serve these guys up is just plate them up. And remember that we eat with our eyes, so the more appealing you make this on your plate, the more you're probably going to want to eat it. So what I have here, roasted potatoes and my stuffed pepper, and that's it for your recipe of the week. So I hope you learned something new. I hope you experiment with this recipe a little bit, add your own flavors and spices, and I hope to see you back next week for your recipe of the week. So remember, if you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, tell me why. Want to know what I'm up to and get notifications, then hit subscribe and turn on your notifications, because that's the way to do it. All right, hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you soon.